For this video, I want to talk about exercise for fat loss, in particular, weight training and how heavy you need to be lifting in order to lose fat and build muscle. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jodie and I help you change your beliefs so you can change your body, your health, and your life. The inspiration for this video has come from another question, which I'm going to read out in a minute, but thank you for the questions. Thank you for the support, likes, subscriptions, comments, all of that. I truly do appreciate it. And of course, I hope that these help you. So the question goes along the lines of, this person was lifting weights for their legs and glutes, and she says, I was lifting about 20 kilos, but now I'm lifting about 14 kilos to do hip thrusts and RDLs. Is that enough to tone my legs and glutes? Then she goes on to ask, and would I still lose fat even though my weight isn't even that heavy? So the weight she's choosing, right? So when it comes to weight training for fat loss, you don't weight train to lose fat. That's controlled through your diet. Although it does help you target fat loss because it's going to help you preserve or build muscle tissue. If you are just in a deficit and you're not doing any kind of resistance training, if you're not working those muscles still, then you are more likely to lose muscle and body fat in a deficit, unless protein is super high, but you really still need to be doing some kind of weight training to retain or build that muscle. And for majority of you, you need to focus on building more muscle to actually get that toned appearance, because just losing weight or even just losing body fat isn't going to help you get lean and tight. So the question should actually be, would I still build muscle even though the weight isn't that heavy? Because fat loss is given if you're eating the right amount of food and lifting to build muscle, or even lifting to maintain muscle. And the way you go about that is literally doing the same thing with the same weights week by week. That's a sign that you are maintaining your muscle mass. But if you want to build new muscle tissue, then you have to be pushing yourself to progressively overload in some way week by week. That's the difference between building and maintenance or staying the same. And that's why a lot of people do stay the same regardless of their diet, regardless of the fat loss side of things. They're going into the gym, winging their workouts. There's no structure in their workouts. They're lifting the same weights week by week, or doing the same reps, or doing slightly different things, or the same thing, or you need structure in order to progress when it comes to weight training. So in this case, it's not so much that the weights aren't heavy enough. It has to come down to how heavy or how challenging do they actually feel in the moment. So what weight you choose is relative to your strength right now, right? But you have to go into your workouts assuming that you are going to be a bit stronger week by week if you've got your diet set up right, and push yourself to achieve that, right? Your weight training should be challenging. Like the last 2 or 3 reps of a set, the speed of contraction should slow down because the weight you've chosen is challenging enough. That's a really good sign to know if the weight you've chosen is right to push you to build that muscle. If you are lifting every single rep with exactly the same tempo and the speed of contraction isn't slowing down towards the last few reps, then it's likely you could go heavier. Another way of thinking about it is using reps in reserve, right? So by the end of the set, how many more reps do you think you could have done? Now, the hard thing about this is often our head gets in the way, right? So we think we could have only done that many, and because we've got that limit of, oh, we only need to do 10 reps, that was hard, that's enough, we stop ourselves from even trying more. And so something I like to do sometimes is do AMRAP sets, right? So you do as many reps as you can on like one of the sets or the last set, just to see how many extra you could really get out when it comes to it, and you're not limited by that rep range. But all of this comes with training experience as well. And the longer you are in the gym lifting weights and seeing what your body is truly capable of, seeing what your mind is capable of as well, the more you're going to be able to push out those extra reps and not necessarily push the weight up, because the more experienced you get, the harder it is to get stronger. just because of how it is, right? Like, if it didn't happen like that, then there would be a lot of people squatting like 500 kilograms or 1,000 kilograms. Progress is not linear when it comes to strength gain at all. At the start, you will make faster progress than once you're intermediate to advanced. How hard you can really push yourself to do that little bit more, whether that's extra reps or adding weight or slowing down the tempo, that changes as you progress, and you get better at doing that as you become intermediate to advanced. So getting back to the question, what's more important than the actual numbers? So this person was injured, by the way, and so I think they've come back to training and had to lower their weights a bit potentially, or maybe they have because of the injury, I'm not too sure, but they were lifting about 20 kilos and now about 14. So they've gone backwards in weights. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are not making progress. If, say, your superset structure has changed, so you're doing 2 exercises with the same muscle groups, you might have to go down in weights. If you have more reps to perform in your program, then you might have to lighten the weight. If you have been injured and you're coming back to gym after a small break, then you might have to go back in weights a little bit for a while and build back up again, and that is fine. But it's not so much about the number, it is about how you're feeling on the day in that workout, how challenging each set is, and then how you're progressing from there week by week, but still always bringing it back to the moment, right? So in an ideal world, we would be progressing week by week and we would be able to, but things are not always ideal. We have to deal with life and stresses around us, and especially being female as well, dealing with our cycle, that does impact weight training and the weights you're going to be able to lift. So you have to take that into account on the day and see how you're feeling. Some workouts you might be feeling really strong, and so it is ideal. You can increase the weight or increase reps or maybe both. Other workouts, the weights you did last week feel really, really heavy, and maybe in that case, lifting the same reps with the same weight when your body is already under other stress from something, that's progress in that case, right? So the main thing is you're aiming for that progressive overload though where you can, and you are following that structured program, using tempo and actually paying attention to the tempo, not trying to rush your reps. And then also just analyzing your workout on the day. How challenging was it? How many more reps could I have done by the end of the set? Are you filming your sets to make sure the speed of contraction does slow down towards the end of the set? And when I say speed of contraction, it's like a bicep curl, right? The contraction part is that lifting part. A squat, the contraction part is when you actually stand back up from the bottom position, right? And so is that slowing down towards the last 2 reps? If it is, then that weight is ideal for you. If it's not, then you can probably go heavier, and you need to lift heavier to challenge your muscles enough to grow. And then if you're doing that, if you're putting that energy into your workouts, if you are building more muscle and you're eating the right amount of food, then the fat loss takes care of itself. Now, something else I want to say in regards to this question in particular, so this person sounds like they're using the same weights for hip thrusts and Romanian deadlifts. Now, this to me says that they are not pushing themselves hard enough in potentially the hip thrust, because when you look at the exercises, a hip thrust, you're usually going to be able to go heavier than what you will with a Romanian deadlift. But it does depend where the exercises come up in your program. So if a Romanian deadlift is first and the hip thrust is last, and just say the hip thrust is higher reps and the Romanian deadlift is lower reps, then maybe you will end up using the same weight. But I see the weights that people lift, right? And usually the hip thrust is something you can get really strong in and lift pretty heavy weight in pretty easily. And a Romanian deadlift, you're usually going to have to go lighter. But anyway, you shouldn't be using exactly the same weights for every single exercise in your program. You will need to adjust it depending on what the exercise is. Is it a compound movement? Is it an isolation exercise? How's the superset structure? What is the tempo? What are the rest times between exercises? All of that comes into account. That is why it's best to look at the set as a whole, look at that speed of contraction and think about the reps in reserve, and that's how you should kind of get an idea of what weight you should be lifting for muscle gain. And then the fat loss, as I said, takes care of itself if you are focusing on building muscle and eating the right amount of food. That is all for this video. Thank you for watching. If you have any more questions, feel free to comment or email me. And if you'd like to see more, please subscribe. If you liked it, please like it. And I will see you in the next video.